SimWorld presents Around the Table with E and the Fat Man.
What's up, everybody? It's me, it's the B.O.B., and I'm here with my man, E. How are you doing today?
Hey, Bob, I am good here this first Around the Table of December. Winter coming all around us. End of the year coming up soon, and things happening in SimWorld. Tournaments underway, rumors rife, kids signing, kids transferring, all kinds of things going on.
Oh, yeah. This is Around the Table with E and the Fat Man. I am not E. I always want to say I'm E. That is E. I am the Fat Man. And this is
many people aspire to be.
I don't think anybody would confuse either of us. I don't think anybody would confuse you as the Fat Man for sure.
That's fair enough.
This is where we talk about just pretty much anything we want to, primarily sports. Sometimes we throw in some pop culture because Eric loves his history.
I do.
Well, let's start off with obviously the big story of the last week or maybe 2 weeks is Lorenzo Phenom.
Yeah, one of the main stories of the offseason, Lorenzo Phenom. The kid is keeping a very tight counsel himself. No word directly from him during any of this.
Yeah.
As far as we know, he's 100% committed to Bad Boys basketball. But what we do know, Coach Brian Loveless of Lakeshore Drive, Chicago, definitely interested in making a pitch to pull Phenom there. And of course, the other thing that we do know about categorically is the fight between Lorenzo Phenom and Owen Pride that happened during this offseason. Pride, the other big man coming into Bad Boys basketball, that set tongues wagging and rumors flying about if the situation there was off for Munch Williams' team in the Detroit area. So maybe first, let's take a little bit of a look at Lakeshore Drive and how Phenom could fit in there.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad fit for him. I think that Coach Loveless would know how to get Phenom involved, which I think is a little bit of a struggle with Bad Boys basketball, is Munch Williams. I don't think he's using him in a good way. Coach Loveless, right now, they have Drake Carvel. He's the biggest name that they have, and after that, the talent drop off is pretty steep in my opinion. They're thin at the big, which I think a lot of teams are. Not a lot of teams. We have Coach Miles Murray for Run DMV out here. He's trying to create the biggest team we've ever seen.
Well, yeah, and he's going as far afield as Egypt to pull kids in. So, going all in on it.
Yeah, I think for Lakeshore Drive, I think Phenom would be a must for them to be a contender this season. If not, they could be a middle of the road, lower tier type team, because Drake Carvel showed last year that you love to say it, he was a volume shooter. That was pretty much all he was.
Well, Drake does have a nice outside shot. He can hit from three. They are bringing back Lakeshore Drive in addition to Harvell, their point guard, Chris Campbell. Not going to fill, not going to fill the bucket up too much. Not a scorer himself, but a competent point guard. So they have some pieces, and they're even bringing some ranked kids in. Norman Nations, 6'3" guard out of Illinois coming in, and Torin Trigg, 6'7", potential big man. Not too much size on his frame yet, but has some potential to play in the post with the skill set he has out of Wisconsin. Torin Trigg coming in, but yeah, you're absolutely right, Bob. That Lakeshore Drive, not blessed with height. Matter of fact, it's funny. Lath Money, who we've also seen in some pickup games this offseason, is actually the tallest player on the roster at this point, 6'8". But he's a big wing. He's skinny too, well under 200 pounds. So adding a piece like Lorenzo Phenom, you do completely see why Brian Loveless is all in on this. But let's turn the attention back to Phenom's current club, Bad Boys Basketball, coached by Munch Williams. And I think, if anything, Bad Boys needs him even more desperately than Lakeshore Drive does. And look, I've been on Discord, I've gone on record as saying before that I do think at the end of the day, and I don't have any inside info, it's just a good opinion, I do think at the end of the day, Lorenzo Phenom, he's a Detroit kid who's going to stay in Detroit. He's going to stay with Bad Boys. That's my prediction. But let's look at the scenario if he doesn't. Talked about Owen Pride a minute ago, and he is the only other big man in any way, shape, or form on this Bad Boys roster. And Pride, first of all, just a 16-year-old kid, first year in SimWorld hoops, and he goes about 6'7" and 220. Decent size, but he's not a paint animal down there. He's not going to be throwing bodies around. And the Tyson Simpsons of the world are going to likely feast on a young man like that. But that's it. That's all that Bad Boys has. There's still a spot open on their roster where they could recruit in somebody big as well. But otherwise, you're looking at a lot of guard and wing players on that team. And look, it's a little bit of a interesting two-way street, or a fork in the road, let's say, for Lorenzo Phenom. If he stays here, he is 100% going to be the star on this team, and that is Bad Boys basketball. They do play through their stars. We saw that last year under Coach Williams with how Roderick Little emerged on that team, as well as Bo Pagnotti, who's coming back. Cash Money's coming back. I just called the man directly there by his nickname. I'm going with it. Cash Ruffin, who I call Cash Money. But there is a chance if you want to be the focal point, if you want to be the star. However, is Bad Boys going to be a real contender this year? Well, if they are, it'll be because Lorenzo Phenom stayed on this team and he dragged them across that finish line. And if he's not there, yikes. Bad Boys basketball could be the new Seattle, folks. And if you're new to SimWorld, last season, the Seattle Stars struggled horrifically until they made a little bit of a run come the national tournament, as a matter of fact. But I can see Bad Boys being on that level. It's just going to be a pretty wispy in the paint team. And I'm just not sure that Pagnotti and Ruffin can take on that sort of scoring role there. No. But look, we're just talking about the two big names. And again, this is nothing new if you've been paying attention on Discord. You know about the Lorenzo saga, and Lakeshore Drive involved trying to rip away from Bad Boys. But Bob, I understand you've been hearing some rumors of other coaches quietly behind the scenes interested too. Is that correct?
Yeah, there are some coaches behind the scenes that they've reached out to Phenom. It just so happens that Coach Loveless has done his more publicly. I do know there's been some frustration on the coach's side with Phenom not just kind of disappearing on them mid-conversation. I believe one coach has been on hold with him for about 2 weeks now.
Really? Interesting. Can you give a name, or is that privileged information?
I'd say that's off the record information.
Off the record. I got it. Okay, you got to respect that.
Yeah, there are a couple coaches that have reached out, and I think there are some teams, if they haven't reached out, I think there are some really good options out there for Phenom. I'll list the two that I think are probably the best options for Phenom, because they obviously know how to use big men: Gotham 5 and the Originators. Yeah. I mean, you have to look at you look at what Johnny Baldwin did last season.
Yeah.
You look at what pretty much whoever Coach Bellardi put at center,
right,
or power forward. Because honestly, if we look at Gotham 5, they did bring in Lovejoy, big kid, great pickup. He's going to be a day one starter.
I'm a huge fan of Aaron Lovejoy. Yep, great fit there.
Now, what could you imagine a lineup where we have Mbako, Phenom at power forward, and Lovejoy at center? I mean, that's 6'9", 6'10", 6'11".
and look, that is, and to some degree, I still think that is Phenom's most natural kind of spot out there on the court, is having another big, rock in the paint next to him. Detroit managed that at times last year. And that was, you're right, kind of what Johnny Baldwin, the Originators, known as New England last year, but big 7-footer Malcolm Oliver was in the paint next to him, allowing Baldwin to operate as a 4, while Oliver took up space inside and 8 rebounds and did his thing there. Yeah. So I could see that, and honestly, neither Bad Boys or Lakeshore will offer anything remotely close to that. Lorenzo will be playing the 5 all the time. It's clear as day.
And I think that they're with the Originators. Coach Dodge, obviously, again, she had Oliver, which I think he was a solid player. He just obviously was overshadowed by Baldwin.
For sure.
Phenom would definitely be playing the 5 a little bit there, because they don't have anybody really big. Their biggest player is 6'8" Tyrone Snyder, and this is his first season in SimWorld. Kevin Sullivan, He's a big 6'7". I mean, need a little bit of size somewhere in there. But
yeah, Sullivan's got the weight. He didn't have the size, not the height anyway.
Yeah, I think Phenom would play center a little bit, but being able to mix him around with Snyder and Sullivan and just playing around with things right there. I mean, they have DJ Wagner. Wagner is immediately going to take the focus of whoever is coming in. Could you imagine I feel like Gotham 5 and the Originators have similar builds this season, minus the height that Gotham 5 has right now.
Yeah, with Lovejoy in there. That's right.
I think Phenom on either one of these teams is a national championship winning team.
I think you're looking at one of the best 5 players in SimWorld hoops. And yeah, I mean, there's very few teams I can't, I have a hard time imagining them not being in the picture with a Lorenzo Phenom in the roster.
Like you could either have Mbako Phenom, Wagner Phenom. Those two just that's to me, that's Kobe Shaq type that we're possibly going to get. Except Phenom again. He's not aggressive, but I think that is strictly Coach Munch Williams, the way he plays him down there. We don't see him going at the rim at all. And at 6'10", he needs to be. We don't need him. I know it's a signature shot. Doesn't mean he can't change it, but he loves the spinning fade away. He pulls the Dirk. He's working on it.
Yeah, it's a deadly shot. It looks good when it goes. But he's also grown. We're used to seeing him a couple inches shorter as well. And, the 17-year-old version of Lorenzo Phenom is a little bit more filled out, a little bit taller than the 16-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
So, he's going to be a monster. And look, I guess we can all speculate all we want. We haven't heard anything directly from the kid's mouth, and he's going to make the decision along with his family at the end of the day. So it'll be really interesting to see where he goes. And, even if he doesn't talk much about his decision directly, I think it will be telling, do you want to be the star? Do you want to chase a championship here? Not to mention some of the behind the scenes mechanics. There was the fight with Owen Pride. I don't think it's actually a big deal in my opinion, but hey, it's out there, right? And chemistry matters. Phenom actually kind of always has been seen as a guy who's a good locker room guy, who's actually a chemistry builder. And maybe he doesn't feel like he's going to have that in Detroit if he comes back this season. I don't know. And we're all going to find out. And I think we're going to find out fairly soon. I mean, obviously, before the season starts, Lorenzo is going to make his intentions clear. And one of the bigger stories in SimWorld Hoops offseason, definitely the Phenom saga.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of the offseason, though, let's switch gears just a little bit. We obviously just had the Charleston Invitational end yesterday, and Team Ghost won.
Team Ghost overcoming a very good Yo Mama Like It side with Corey Yams, Royce Anderson, and Demario Duvall. I was impressed and a little bit surprised by that. Now, look, Ghost Sue. My man Gil Blumenstein, and I am a huge Blumenstein fan. I love that kid's game. He's great. I love watching him. But Keandre Baldridge, we've also seen him play in some pickup before. And the emergence of De'Aaron Cruz, who, I know that name, but I didn't really know that game before all of this. And for me, kind of a coming out party to some degree for Cruz. And that, again, I think all the other names on the the 6 guys in that championship game, more familiar with than him, but emerged as a player in this one.
Oh yeah, I think down the road, I think each team, like Blumenstein and Anderson, I think they both have the potential to be top 20, top 15 players in SimWorld Hoops. I think it was a little bit of a disappointment just because of how well Royce has played. Was this the first tournament we got to see Yams out there? What were your thoughts on him?
I believe so. Well, no, was he not in one of the earlier ones? Well, anyway, no. To answer your question,
I can't. Let me just. I don't want to cut you off, but I feel like he's been everything because of how much he runs his mouth. So this might not have been his first one, but as much as he talks, he's been in everything.
But talks the talk, but walk the walk in Charleston too, right? Made it to that final game. Obviously, 3-on-3 event, Charleston Invitational here in the preseason. So you're out there on the court, you're getting tons of run, and I thought he looked good. Look, Corey Yams is going to be a player. Corey Hams, first of all, I personally like it. I like a little bit of personality. I like a little bit of somebody blowing their own horn, not afraid to let you know that I'm coming. But hey, again, I thought really played well. Actually, I think he fits nicely next to Anderson. I think that's a good little pairing, the two of them. But I think he is for real. I think we're going to be talking about Corey Hams for the next couple seasons here in SimWorld for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they won 3 games. Sorry, they won 2 games in the last tournament. He was in the West Coast Takeover.
Yeah, I thought that. I was trying to think which one it was. I couldn't quite place it for a second. Thank you for looking that up, Bob. I knew he'd been in one before, and you're right. West Coast Takeover, where again played pretty well.
Just couldn't get past Maryland gets buckets, but obviously on the other side, nobody was getting past Bilardi's boys. So
right, yeah, I know. The legend of Tim Bilardi grows even while he's not on the sideline.
Hey, the Big Apple Classic is coming up here in a few days. I believe it starts on December 10th, and I know he's going to be in that. We get a chance to see him. We get to see Coach Dodge and the Originators out there.
Yeah.
So we get to see. We'll also get to see Coach Myron Murray. And Run DMV, we'll see. They have some interesting. I think they have some really interesting lineups. Coach Bilardi took a little bit of a. Sorry, I'm switching gears a little bit here.
No, that's all right.
Coach Bilardi kind of has his clear A team coming into the Big Apple Classic with Kadarius Loftus, Mackenzie McBacco, and Aaron Lovejoy. Coach Dodge took a little bit of an interesting route where it looks like she's trying to get some of her new guys some playing time and to get some visibility out there. She got Jace Babcock, which I'm sure most people have not heard of. We talked about Tyrone Snyder earlier. Nobody's really heard of him. Jared Quinney is really the only one out there that people have seen, and he's played well. He's played in a bunch of pickup games and stuff like that.
Yes.
But I think that's a good... Go ahead.
I like it. I like it. I like the philosophy. I like what Coach Dodge is doing there. It's a little bit like, NFL football, right? In the preseason, you don't play your starting quarterback. You don't care if you win this preseason game or not at the end of the day. Not really.
But you want to see what you got.
But you want to get your guys out there, get them meaningful reps in game situations, build a little chemistry with other players. I like the philosophy. I like what Coach Dodge is doing there.
It does look like we get a little bit of a break from Corey Yams in this one. He's not on any of the teams.
No, he's not signed yet. That's right. He will be, though. Don't worry. He will be. So, hey, I talked about football there tangentially, but kind of segues to the last topic I wanted to discuss on the show with you today, Bob, and that is college football. It's been a big weekend. We did not get the chalk results. USC falling. TCU falling in overtime. So, looking at the college football playoff, Bob, want to get your opinion. So, who do you think are the 4 teams going to be announced on Sunday, later today, as we're recording this early on Sunday? Who do you think is going to make the college football playoff for what looks like to be the last time that just 4 teams make it in? Looks like it'll be 12 next year.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad that they can't hold off on like an hour so that our podcast will come out first.
I know, so we can talk about it a little bit. This is all right. It allows us to predict, and soon we'll know and reveal to everybody how wrong we were. But what are your wrong picks?
So I think there's obviously 2 that you can't go wrong with because Georgia and Michigan are undefeated.
That's your 1-2.
That's your 1-2. Period. I think that USC picking up that second loss if it's not a Big Ten or an SEC team, a 2-loss team is not getting into the tournament, into the championship. Period.
I'd say that's probably true. Yeah.
So USC, they're gone. TCU,
agreed.
Man, I want to see them in there because I love when I don't want to call them a smaller school because I don't think of TCU as a smaller school, but they're not the Big Ten or the SEC. And at this point, that weighs so much more than anything else. I think Ohio State comes back in. I think Ohio State will be the 3. The number 4 spot is probably the hardest for me because do you take, as the committee, money runs everything. And it will,
of course,
it will always run everything. I think that there is a possibility that a 2-loss Alabama team jumps into the number 4 spot over a 1-loss TCU team. It's just,
Interesting.
I think it's a possibility. So I see this going two ways. It's either going to be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, TCU, or it's going to be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama coming in. But that would mean that Alabama and Georgia play again. And I don't know if they want to make, maybe Ohio State will be the 4. And no, I'm going to stick with, I think the committee is going to do the wrong thing. And they're going to go Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama. I think the two-loss Alabama team is going to make it in over the one-loss TCU team. But TCU's one loss is against, at the time, number 10 Kansas State. So it's not like it's not a huge upset. There are other teams that are like sniffing there. You got the 2-loss Tennessee team, 2-loss Penn State team. Unfortunately for Tennessee, I don't think they're going to make it in at all. They lost Hooker for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Penn State, their 2 losses, Michigan, Ohio State. We're not going to see I think Ohio State's a lock. So I don't think we're going to see 3 Big Ten teams in one SEC team, especially when if it's a 2-loss team, again, Alabama. I think Alabama, if Alabama went 0-13, I think the committee would still try and find a way to
Well, I do think you're right about that. And actually, I think that Alabama deserves to be in this. I think they should be one of the 4 teams. They're not going to make it. I think that you're obviously, half of it's filled, Georgia and Michigan, 1, 2. I think TCU stays in, and actually, personally, I think that they even hold on to the 3rd spot. I don't think they're going to move down any. I think they're going to be your 3rd team in. Their one loss came obviously over this weekend to a very good Kansas State team, and it came in the Big 12 championship game. An extra game that Ohio State didn't even have to play. So I don't think they're going to punish TCU, particularly because of how TCU played in that game. I mean, they got beat in overtime by a field goal.
Yeah.
So, not a bad loss, not a bad look for TCU. TCU hangs on to the 3rd spot, leaving that 4th spot open. I will go on record as saying that I think Alabama's resume is the best of the other teams out there. Their 2 losses were to 2 teams, Tennessee in Rocky Top when Hooker was playing in a very close game that they only lost late. And also they lost to LSU, which now has 4 losses on the season because they made the SEC title game. But LSU also quite a good team. And that was an Alabama loss again that was, on the road and decided late. Not a bad, embarrassing loss. Ohio State, quite frankly, in my opinion, they have their 1 loss, but it was a beating that happened in Columbus, Ohio, in their own house, where they just looked terrible and non-competitive. And if you go a little bit deeper into Ohio State's schedule, they have 1 very good win on their resume. They beat Penn State in Happy Valley. And after that, they beat a mediocre Notre Dame team in mediocre fashion. Didn't look terribly impressive. And if you go deeper than that, what's their next best win? Iowa? It's just not that good. Anyway, that's my soapbox for why Alabama should be in over top of Ohio State. But what the committee will do is Ohio State will be slotted into that 4th spot. Which means again, if my prediction is correct, you're looking at Georgia versus Ohio State and Michigan versus TCU in our semifinals. I think that what you're going to have at the end of the day is exactly what you had last year. Georgia and Michigan in a national championship rematch, and I think once again Georgia is going to beat Michigan.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick with I think it's going to be first round Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. They always say when teams come back to play each other again, that's usually
it's challenging.
Look when the Patriots, they were undefeated in the Super Bowl. They had already beaten the Giants that season. The teams they know each other now. Obviously, I really want to say that TCU is going to stay in it. I really, really do. It's just so hard for me. My gut is just telling me that the committee is going to throw us a curveball. And is it really a curveball when Alabama's been as good as they have been over the years? Saban has done such an amazing job there, which people think that Coach Coach Deion Sanders is going to do the same
Yeah,
thing in
Colorado.
which I love Deion Sanders.
Hey,
Love what
had a
he
nice.
did. Yeah.
Yep, Jackson State. That's right. Had a
Love
nice
what
run.
he did at Jackson State, but it's still Colorado. He is going to get the play. I don't think he's not going to be making the college football playoff, but they're going to hit double-digit wins, in my opinion. Maybe not right away. I guess. Well, here's the thing: how long are they going to hold him there for? It is Colorado, and it is Deion Sanders. Nobody cares about Colorado. Does that mean that Deion Sanders is going to have this super, super, super long leash where they give him? I think, in my opinion, every coach should have the opportunity to build their team through at least three of their own recruiting cycles. So I'd say that's 4 years. Every coach should get 4 years to see if they are going to be able to turn a team around. Is he going to get that there? I think so. I really do, because it's Coach Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the name.
I think he's going to have some success there. Yeah, that's right.
And there were some, I think, was it the early 90s or not the late 90s, maybe early 2000s where they weren't terrible?
Actually, the 1980s and the 1990s.
Is that okay?
Colorado had some very good runs. They had some, like national championship. Of course, this was before the college football playoff, but they had some contending teams during that time. Absolutely.
We'll see if Coach Matt Roll can turn Nebraska back into what they used to be. I was going to say off the record. I don't know why I said off the record. I'll just say one of my favorite players of all time, Tommy Frazier. Nebraska loved him. Freaking blood clots, man. Freaking blood clots ended that career. A great player.
Yeah.
I think Nebraska will be looking for a new coach in 2 years, just because Nebraska's Nebraska, and they're never gonna find those glory days again.
Yeah, especially not in the Big Ten.
Yeah. Well,
it's a tough conference.
Yeah, it is. I took this off the rails a little bit here at the end. I apologize.
That's all right.
So, is there any final words from you, E?
No, other than I am looking forward to see what happens here with this college football playoff selection in a couple hours, and I am also interested to see what happens with the Lorenzo Phenom saga. Again, I got $20 down on him staying in Detroit, but there's going to be some twists and turns, I think, to get us there. And I just want to say that these preseason tournaments have been great. Charleston was great. Looking forward, we got more coming, and so thanks to everybody that's been participating in that, the players signing up, forming teams. Really appreciate it. Really been enjoying it. And just a thank you to you.
Oh, yeah. And just because I skipped it, I'm going to throw it in. You mentioning the tournaments. I did skip again. Basketball Without Borders Europe is going to be December 7th, which is just a couple days before the Big Apple Classic. We'll see. Hey, always love seeing the international talent, because last seson they didn't.
Gotta love it.
They didn't get a whole lot of love last season. Didn't get a whole lot of viewing time. So being able to see them, it's always good. But I appreciate everybody listening. I appreciate you, E. We got 21 days until Christmas. We're gonna have to make sure we don't forget a Christmas episode like we forgot a Thanksgiving episode.
We will, for sure.
But if you guys are listening, if you guys are enjoying, please, if you haven't signed up for SimWorld, if you want to be a coach, want to be a player, head over to the SimWorld Discord. Hit up the overview FAQ section. Read everything, fill out the application, join up, and we hope to see you out there. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
Appreciate you all. See you soon, folks.